SEO process management. That is the topic that we are going to get today to cover in this session of the Learning SEO.io Accelerator Q&A with the wonderful Judith Lewis. Hello, Judith. How are you?
Hi, very nice to see you. I'm great, thank you. I've had chocolate today, so it's a great day.
That is always positive and the key to start a good day for sure. If you don't know Judith has a tons of experience in SEO as a consultant and also as a digital marketer. She has worked with a variety of clients from industries that are, let's say, a little bit traditional too. So she has all of this experience managing the expectation, the activities, the coordination, the communication in areas that can be quite complex. And I'm very keen to go through the concepts and the main questions regarding the key to success to SEO project management. And it's true, we had previously covered certain type of activities that are very connected with SEO management in general. So for example, we had already covered how to set SEO goals, for example, how to monitor SEO too. But there are other, let's say, type of tasks that we need to do as SEOs, from communication, coordination, setting expectations, and these particular activities might be even more important in certain type of projects, depending on the context. So my first question will be, Judith, for you. Which are those key activities that you see are always useful and meaningful to do from a management standpoint in any SEO process, independently if it is small, if it is medium, if it is good, those type of management activities that will tend to always pay off?
I think that there's two ways to look at this. So does it pay off for the client or does it pay off for you? I always take a step back with every project because it's easy to just have a client say, right, our website isn't ranking very well, we need a fix. And you're like, right, I'm going to do this right now. And don't step back and say, well, actually, what's the bigger picture? So I've just started with a client right now. They don't even have a visibility on all of the websites they own, let alone what's going on the websites, which is crazy. So I've implemented a system where we're actually going to start grouping all, and it's a lot of websites, grouping all of them by theme. It's that many websites. And then we're going to look at the state of play of each of the websites to see whether it's had any penalties, whether it's still, the content is still fresh and relevant, et cetera, et cetera. So stepping back is the most important thing, because what do you need to do? Our website's not ranking, we want to buy links, or our website's not ranking, we want you to do keyword research. That's the client leading you and telling you what you need to do, whereas you're the expert. So you need to take that step back. And sometimes I do it unpaid, but generally it's part of the consultancy. So if I quote hours, there's always project management hours. Those project management hours are what you use when you're looking at the whole picture. So don't just say, okay, right, you want me to do keyword research? I'm going to do that right now. Step back and say, actually, the process of going through the website is really difficult. The keyword research isn't quite, just the only thing you need. Let's step back and see actually the bigger picture. You might not be able to sell it in, but if the client doesn't even know who their clients are, so one of my customers right now kind of has one persona and that's it. And one of the things I do is I do workshops really quick and easy and dirty. So like 3 columns, who is it, CEO, or is it Agatha or Frank or whoever? What's their age? Where do they hang out? And what are their pressures? What do they need? Why are they even at this website? So that's a quick and dirty persona. Then you can start mapping out things for the client on the site. You can sell in extra services this way. But if you don't step back and see what you need to do, then if you're too deep in the weeds, the keyword research isn't going to give you the financial outcome for the client that you need. So to prioritize, the first thing you need to do is step back and understand what the bigger picture is, because like I worked with Aston Martin once, they wanted help ranking, which is fabulous. Great. Aston Martin, fantastic brand. It was a cinematographic, immersive experience website, which was all like video led. I think the step back is going to have to be, we need content. Because otherwise Google doesn't understand your beautiful, swooshing of lights across the car. So stepping back is super important. Then understand the tasks that are needed, prioritize them based on what you think the biggest impact will be to the client, and then demonstrate to the client that you've done this extra step, that you've identified their needs, and then move forward with what they will agree to on a process. Sometimes clients will be like, no, I don't care that you've just done that. You've wasted time and money. I just want keyword research. Those are not the clients you want to work with because they're leading, and you should be the expert leading.
I would like to highlight something very, very important here that you mentioned, Judith, that is understanding the context in which you are going to work. Remember that at this point of the SEO process, you should have already done an audit. You should have already done an SEO audit. You should have already talked with your clients about scenarios of SEO goals, depending on timings, resources, etc. But it is super important to, whenever you start agreeing and saying, okay, we are going to achieve this, these are the resources that you are already giving me, because in order to develop, let's say, all of this content to rank for this query in this area for these topics, we need at least, and you need to do this type of calculations with the content team, I will need at least that you allocate me 30 hours per week of copywriting, of content, or I need at least 5 articles to be published per week, right? This type of thing. You need to understand, okay, for all of these queries that I want to target or I need to target, that the client has told me that they are more than willing to allocate resources to and budget to, you need to understand how much that means in terms of effort to be able to coordinate with that area, because many times you need to do one of two things, whether to coordinate with the department, the relevant department or area that exists within the company, to ask the other area to leave those resources to create that content or to implement or execute those technical changes. Or if there are no in-house resources, you will need to ask for a budget to be able to hire those services externally, right? So it's one or the other. So it's important that you understand how much do you need to execute what you have agreed to be done. And for that, I mean, your client or your boss or the decision maker should confirm again that there are resources. If at that point, this is a thing, and this is very important, if at that point the decision maker comes, or the director of that area comes and say, oh, sorry, there was a mistake. I didn't know that there was going to be that much needed. I cannot give you 10 hours of a developer to do this per week, or I cannot give you this or that. At that point, you say, okay, then the goals will need to change accordingly. Because what cannot happen is that you still fix with the same type of goals without the support, without the resources. So that is the first step, I will say, when you start managing the SEO process, right? Like managing, like if it is a product, like it is a little business, your little business unit, you need resources to make it happen, to execute the output, right? And if at some point they promise you resources, they say, okay, but when you start connecting what you want to achieve versus what is needed, and you show it and say, okay, I need exactly this for content, this for development, this for promotion, for outreach, for links, for backlinks, and they say no, then everything needs to be reassessed again. Okay, so only half of that, or okay, let's then we won't be able to achieve all of it. Only half of it too, accordingly, right? So you will need to reassess that. So that on one hand, you need to let's say to really scoop the needs of resources and other areas. That is the first things. Once that you have confirmed the availability of those resources, it's important that you coordinate that activity with these other areas or that other agency, external agency that will provide you those resources. So for that, it's important that you understand and get to know and get in touch with the person who's going to be in charge of the development team, the development work, or the content area, and that they understand the importance of SEO, the key of this, the goal of it, what you want to achieve, and that you start communication and coordination with them in a way that is easy to follow up, right? you cannot be in touch or coordinate like if there are 5 developers, you don't know which developer is, or to start coordinating yourself, the 5 developers. No, ideally you should have one key person that you interact with the development team that will coordinate them and who will serve as the spokesperson, let's say, for that type of work. The same with the content work. You cannot coordinate and do like the coordination of the 5 content writers, an example, but there should be a content manager who knows how to coordinate them, and that should be, otherwise you can go easily crazy, right? And then what I will highly suggest is to do an action plan for each one of them. I mean, you can do a Gantt chart if you want, or you can have like a Trello-like board. It doesn't matter, really. It's what is easier for you and especially them to work with, right? So they don't say, oh, because I am not given the task in certain formats, I cannot understand them or I don't do them. No, it's important that you deliver the activities in a way that is easy for them to follow up, that they understand it. It's important that you highlight the importance and the type of outcome that you want. So this is key. So whenever they execute something, they don't execute only half of it and they say it is already done. And then when you go and check, you see that they have done half, and the half that they have done is the least important half, right? So it is important that they understand the goal of what you want to achieve and the why you want to achieve it. And you establish, whenever you request each task, to like a minimum requirements to give each task provide a task with a checked status or done status or achieved status, right? So there should be this understanding between parts. That is the first, the channel for communication. And then you should set and agree, okay, we are going to coordinate every week. We are going to have a call. We will use asynchronous communication with this project management system that already exists in the organization, or this new one, the one that is easiest for them to use and understand, and to facilitate coordination, and then to establish like an ongoing, frequent, let's say, validation or communication to touch base and to ensure that if they have any questions that have arisen in the last week, because they're preparing the next activity or they're executing stuff, they don't wait like literally any longer to clarify those doubts, and they can do it in a very straightforward way in those calls. And it is something easy to share in writing, that they share it to you in writing and in the project management system, right? And then mention, okay, whatever, something that might be trivial, easy to understand, or easy to explain in written. You send anything written. If something more meaningful or that needs a lot of context to clarify, let's clarify it in our weekly calls. But it's important to set the pace of the communication, set the pace of when is something going to be checked or validated as achieved or not. And then, of course, also from a launching management standpoint, once the things are done, you need to agree with the team, okay, how often are they going to be released? Are the releases weekly releases or bi-weekly releases on the website? How often it will be? So you know what you can monitor and when you should monitor and when you should validate in the test environment and in the production environment, etc. So you need to do all of this coordination even before starting, because once you start, you should already follow the action plan with the dates that you have set for all of this, right? So this type of coordinations with all of the different team members involved, knowing that you will have the resources or the budget for execution, and then coordinating with the critical people, the key people from each area, asynchronously in the project management system to clarify little doubts, and meaningful doubts in weekly calls, I would say, are ideal to avoid having misunderstanding or erroneous implementations that could have been easily, let's say, clarified, right? I don't know if there's anything else, Judith, that you would like to highlight at this point, which is pretty much the planning of the whole management of the process.
I think that one of the most useful things for me were Gantt charts with dependencies, where it's like, I have to have the copywriter do this before it can go on the website. So if you've scheduled the stuff to go live on the website because you can't, it's not like WordPress, you have to actually have dev intervention. I can't have it live on the website until the content gets done. If you don't give me content time, I can't get it on the website when you've given me dev time. Therefore, the dependencies fall apart. So a Gantt chart with dependencies that you share with the client, of course, always, illustrates really clearly that if you're not willing to give me 10 hours this week, we're not going to get it done for next week's push to live. So sometimes clients, and as you've rightly pointed out, sometimes devs do the wrong things, but sometimes clients don't want to give us what we need. And so a Gantt chart with dependencies enables us to demonstrate tangibly that you don't get this unless you give me this. And if this takes longer, it's longer until you get that. So it's past Christmas before we finish this project if you change all the goalposts. So yeah, Gantt charts with dependencies are some of the best things. And keeping in mind the Jira ticket style of as an X, I want Y, what success looks like is Z. If you structure things that way very logically and very formulaically, sometimes developers especially respond better to that, but management doesn't always respond well to that. So communicating with the person in the right way that they respond to is key.
100%. So I will say, for example, if you tend to work in a big organization, developers will end up using very likely something like Jira, like their own development management system. I will highly recommend that rather than you requesting them to use yet another platform in top of that, to go and access yourself directly, whatever they're using already. So it's easy for them to see what you need, right? And to communicate very quickly with them. Something important here, I will say too, and it's connected with what Judith mentioned before. Frequently touching base with them, like weekly calls, for example, are great to understand if something is not going as expected, because there is this other scenario. Maybe they allocate the resources and the budget at the beginning and they say, yes, I agree. But then after 3 months, you realize that the execution is not going as expected. The pace is not expected. They are doing things in a buggy way, in the wrong way, and you need to always troubleshoot. And after a month, something that you have already been launched a month ago is not yet released because it has so many bugs. Don't allow this to happen without alerting and communicating the decision maker, the one who will assess your results based on the execution of that task, right? If you see that task is not being done as expected after 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and because of that delay, your results are not going to be seen in the timing that has been set, then don't wait until the next month to communicate that to the decision maker, right? In the next report that you give to them, already specify, hey, the certain activities that are already in place that are taking much longer than expected. And we already have a delay of a month on something that is fundamental to achieve X or Y results. So we can already expect delays. If we don't want delays on goals achievement, so let's change this or that, or let's allocate more resources, or let's change the efficiently, or let's have a call with the department in charge of X or Y to change the way that things are being done. So it's important that you are proactive, right? And when you see, like, the whole point of management is to effectively achieve results and execute stuff that will allow us to achieve results, right? In this case, the SEO process. So if you start identifying issues in the execution, you need to alert, and you don't need to only say, okay, that this is happening, how bad, I'm going to cry because the SEO process won't achieve the results. No, because at the end of the day, this is how your boss will assess your work or your client. So don't wait it for the next 6 months until nothing can be done. Communicate accordingly and very quickly. And as you can see, this is something that needs, let's say, non-trivial type of work, right? I will say that there's time to be left for the analysis and no, not only the initial SEO analysis or initial SEO audit, but continuous analysis. But then also time that you should be aware that you should allocate for this type of coordination, management type of activities with the different areas, with the team involved, with the decision makers to be able to communicate and coordinate everything effectively. Judith, in your experience, how much would you recommend SEOs to allocate and to be aware that they need to allocate? Because the problem is that many times we are not aware that we need to leave time for this type of activities, right? And then we end up, for example, when we work at agencies or as consultants, independent consultants, freelancers with many clients, we end up saying yes, an example, to, and this is too extreme, like 20 clients or 10 clients, just to realize, oh, I should have only said yes to 6 because of all this time I need to spend going back and forth coordinating the task with each of them, right? How do you deal with this?
One of the things that I do is I do keep track of how long everything takes me. It took me a long time to get to that place on my own. In agencies, my project management time was usually eaten up by other tasks because we chronically under pitched. So we said, oh, we can do this in 20 hours when it's a 45-hour project. And it's out of your hands because the project manager and the CEO did it. So you're given too little time to do everything in. So now what I do is I do break down each task by hours and by days. However, when I write up the proposal, I do say this is a 2-day task, but it will take 5 days to complete due to the fact that this piece has to happen first, then this piece happens, then this piece happens, and there has to be time. I don't need to babysit Screaming Frog when it's spidering a site, but it takes time. I don't need to babysit another tool like SEMrush or whatever when I have it doing things on a site, but it has to happen and it takes time. So I can schedule somebody else where I have to do something actively while that's happening in the background, but I need to communicate to the client that that's happening. So I book time in blocks, and it's taken time to learn how much time I need for things, but you need a good 5 hours at least at the front of the project to map everything out that you need to get done. It feels like dead time because you're not doing anything, but you're planning, right, I've done this audit, this is done, I've got what I need to do, now I have to actually schedule everything out. And I still, to this day, and I've been working for over 25 years, to this day I still feel guilty charging clients for time that I know I have to do and give them, and it has to be done for their project, but I still feel guilty doing it because I'm not doing something that makes them money immediately, but it makes them money down the road because everything's done in the right order. So I always give myself a minimum of 5 hours at the front to just schedule and organize everything. And I hate doing it as well. We use Asana for one of my clients, and I'm the one that's always going in and putting in all the tasks, assigning them to people like myself or other people. And so you need to give yourself that time. I still feel guilty, but try not to be me, and don't feel guilty that you need to charge them to organize everything and give yourself time at the beginning of the project. But then you still need to also charge them for the communication, also charge them for the actual doing of things. My dad used to be a lawyer, and he was better at this than I am. Every email, every phone call, everything, and it's taken me a long time, I now have a timer and I turn it on. I have a client that called me the other day at 11 o'clock at night. My timer went on immediately. But I also said to him, don't do this. This is not right. But the timer, you need to keep track of your time, even if you're not charging, even if you're like, oh, I can't charge. Keep track of your time. Have a timer. I used to use Harvest, but now I use, I can't remember what it's called, some other app. There are lots of timer apps out there. Just click the button, start the timer, and keep track of everything. But give yourself 5 hours at the beginning to map everything out. But please, even if you're not charging the client this way, if you keep track of your time this way, you will have a much better idea for every subsequent project how long things actually take. Like an email. Who knew emails could take an hour? I for sure didn't expect that, but a complicated email where you're explaining things to clients and trying not to swear does take a long time to edit down, because you don't want it. First of all, word spam. My brain goes into the email, then I edit everything, and it can take an hour. But the communication is essential, and it's beautiful, and it's perfect. It's exactly what the client needs in the language he needs it, or she, if it's one of my other clients. I'm thinking of a very specific client here when I'm telling you about this, and it is a he. He's very particular. including like when we go out and have a meeting, his tea has to be a specific way. So he's very particular, and he pays for it. He pays for that hour that it takes me to do an email for him that might only be 6 lines, but started out as 600 words, not lines. So just keep a track of time. It seems silly. There's like a toy as well. You just flip it over, it starts your timer. Whatever it takes for you to do it, do that. And another is I think it's Pomodoro or something, where I focus on one task for a specific period of time, and I make myself sit down and do that task. Even if I've got another client that's bugging my brain, I really focus on one thing and I keep the timer on for that, and then immediately switch the timer to the other one when I start thinking about the other one. If you don't keep track of your time, you'll never truly appreciate how long just emails take, let alone phone calls with the client where they're like, just one question.
I would like
an
to
hour and a half later.
How this is important, not only for many purposes, in fact, not only for you, for example, if you're a consultant or working at an agency, for you to be able to charge accordingly or to change the way you charge, because you understand, because this is the thing, it can change so widely depending on the type of client you're dealing with. There are clients who have already SEO know-how that are super easy to work with because they already understand the process. They have done it many times. They understand many clarifications. But there are other type of clients that you are going to work with that this is their first process. They don't understand. They might be difficult to communicate with. So it will take much longer for you to coordinate small things. So if this is, let's say, a difficult or high maintenance, the so-called high maintenance client, it can change widely, even if the type of company is the same, and if the type of SEO process is the same, can change a lot, only depending on the human that you're interacting with, right? So keep track of how long does it take to do every type of activity, because it will allow you not only to charge or change the way you charge them based on that, or to ask your boss, look, this is taking me much longer because this client, take a look at how much does it take to do this and that, much more different than this other type of project. So you can already start identifying what goes out of what is actually normal or usual in your SEO processes, and add more help accordingly. Oh, I need the help of another SEO, or I need an SEO assistant, or I need someone who can support me, or it's too many projects already for me. You can see how much I am already spending on each one of them. Or look, 80% of my time is being eaten up by one client, and I am handling 6. Like, there's something wrong here. There's something that needs to be changed in the way that we deal with this client, right? So it can allow you to highlight issues, or to change the way you charge, or to ask for more resources. That for sure. Then on the other hand, what it is important is that you identify also what are the things that you enjoy the most. I have a question here also regarding why do I think and how do I see account manager, especially in agencies, right? When you are working on your own and as an SEO consultant, or when you are working in-house, this type of SEO coordination and management is something that you need to be able to do yourself, right? For success, that's it. You can, that's it pretty much. But when you work at agencies, there are usually account managers too. These are account managers that actually need, deal, and that you can delegate the day-to-day type of communication or coordination that can end up eating a lot of time, and it's not very impactful or strategical, right? The strategical part, you have been involved, you have already agreed on setting this or that, the big decisions have been already made, and is only for the little coordination or the calls or this type of things. Be careful though. I believe that yes, they can be helpful, but up to a certain point, to accelerate and to save you time on coordinating this. It's like if you have a personal assistant, right? So it's great. However, there might be things, because they are not necessarily SEO specialists, there might be things that are lost in translation, that are lost in the communication, that you don't understand, that you don't see from the client because you don't handle the client. So there might be little signals that the client is given that they are not happy, or that they think that you should try another thing, or they might think that they have certain ideas to be taken into account that the account manager is not communicating to you. right? So you whether work with someone in account management that you really trust or who knows really SEOs, and you communicate well between. And I will highly, highly advise that even if you do, you always, from time to time, take part of those discussions, of those meetings. You cannot delegate everything to the account manager, because at the end of the day, is your work. You need to understand and many times you end up really understanding the client until you speak with them and you see the expectations and you see how what they highlight from their business, right? So it's fundamental that you are, even if there's this layer of account management and you are an SEO specialist that should be supposed to be only executing, not in the coordination layer, to really learn and understand the project that you're working with and the goals and the expectations and I will highly, highly recommend, just even if you don't speak at those meetings, to be involved from time to time, to attend those meetings from time to time, to learn and to see and to identify patterns and to integrate those accordingly, right? I'm not saying that account managers are not good. They might be really, really helpful. But what it is really, really important is that SEO specialists are involved in those type of needed steps into the process, right? Is there anything else, Judith, that you would like to highlight here, but especially with account management and the day-to-day management of clients?
Yeah, I think that account management is super important. I've had account managers and agencies when I've presented how many hours things will take, cut the hours. And I have to say, well, you can cut the hours and charge a client less. It's still going to take me 10 hours to do this. You can cut it to 5 or 6, but I'm not going to do it any faster. So it's up to you if you want to lose money. So I think you have to really be careful about communicating with account managers. And as Aleda says, there are subtle clues or hints that account managers might miss if they're not an SEO that is being communicated to you, to them. So definitely an account manager or project manager that knows SEO or is familiar with SEO is incredibly valuable. Being in the meetings, if you're in an agency, it's difficult sometimes to get invited to those meetings because they want you working the work, not speaking to the client. I would push for it and say that you'll work faster and more efficiently if you're able to at least listen in. And, whatever, assure them that you're also, I don't know, doing some SEMrush keyword research or something at the same time. So just really push for inclusion because you're going to understand the client better. I had a B2B client, business to business client called Amadeus, who work in aviation. And if you've ever bought a ticket, you've probably, like an airline ticket, you've probably used their system. If I hadn't have actually demanded almost, but begged to be sitting in on the meetings, I never would have picked up on the fact that the client had completely different KPIs for his job than what we were targeting for. So we had to really pivot quickly and change what we were doing for him because his bonus, his pay, his raise, his bonus was KPI'd on things that we weren't even looking at. And it was that call where it was an offhand comment too. It wasn't even the focus of it was just one of those things where you're chatting and it was offhand comment. If I hadn't have been there, I wouldn't have picked up on it. And it's those things that make you the most money in business, or a chat with your boss if you're in-house. Sometimes it's the small conversations that people don't think you need to be a part of that you pick up as an SEO, and you can actually pivot your work and do better work for the client as a result.
That is a really, really good advice indeed. And there are a few questions also having to do with prioritizing activities and tasks. And this has to do about what you have prioritized of those high impact, lower effort activities in the SEO audit and recommendation. Remember that you develop an audit and top action recommendations. We already have gone through that session already. So your SEO execution will rely on that. You should start with those that you see that will have high impact, lower effort. If at some point someone again from the relevant team comes your way and say, sorry, we cannot start with those that you propose first, because in the next 3 months we will be changing the platform, whatever, so we cannot do any other additional modifications or changes for it. perfect. You change accordingly, but also goals should change accordingly. So if for example, if you had already said to improve the metadata, the titles and the description, to improve the click-through rate very quickly of already top ranked pages, and like that, you had expected to grow, I don't know, 20% more in clicks for certain type of pages, for categories, for example. You know that, okay, if you tell me I won't be able to update the titles and the description for the next 3 months, this won't be my first to-do task. But also that goal of having an increase of 20% in clicks after 4 or 5 months because of this very low-hanging fruit is gone. So this is the type of thinking that you should have, and you shouldn't be scared of saying, it's okay, you're like, this is my priority based on impact and effort. You're changing it now to me because X or Y, perfect. But it's not only the activity that change orders, but also your goals, right? So this is key. And yes, all of these activities that we're talking about and tasks connect with your high impact, low effort action plan that you should have set as an outcome of your SEO audit. Just those top recommendations that are then translated into tasks for the different teams, right? Something also important here is that regarding tools, right? We mentioned already, but I see another very specific question regarding what kind of tools do you use to maintain the order and history of each project, right? There is one thing, the tools and the platforms that you use to communicate with each team members, try to use whatever works for them, better for them, but you should, as we mentioned yourself, have a tracking system, a good tracking system, not only of the time, but whatever has been done, has been achieved or time or not. Whenever, so for example, something is released, I like to add a note in Google Analytics, Google Search Console too, to be able to see the potential impact of it, and I take it into consideration in my reporting later on. I don't know if there are tools, Judith, that you love to use in the day-to-day to better manage the different tasks, and that you think that might be useful for people to start using?
I think Asana is my main task list. Basecamp's good for gathering files, but if the client doesn't use Basecamp, never used it before, it is unlikely that you're going to be able to force them to use Basecamp. So Asana for tasks, because what it does do is it lets me assign things to people, even to myself. Assign a deadline. So I will book up a year's worth of stuff with certain clients, and it reminds me that I said, oh yeah, I was going to rewrite stuff for Christmas, wasn't I, in October? And it just reminds me of tasks, but it gives visibility to the client. The client knows that I'm expecting to rewrite the, title tag, meta description, top of page content on October 31st or 30th or whatever, and that will be delivered to him on the 31st, end of day. On November 1st, he'll implement it because he can see Asana and he can see all of the tasks for all the different departments. And then I know this is old school, I also keep a spreadsheet. Oh, I know it's not sexy or sophisticated. The reason I keep a spreadsheet is, on occasion, I have to take stuff, and it's easy because I can take it and turn it into text. I have to take stuff and give a report to a client of everything that was done. I've had to do that, I think, twice this year, of everything that was done for the client, and he wanted like a full Word report. Thankfully, it was a project, not an ongoing retainer. And so I did everything that had been done because I had it in a spreadsheet. It was copy paste. If it was just in Asana, I would have had to take each task and transpose it. So it is, I could have exported as well, but it's still not as easy as my super simplistic spreadsheet. But it does give me the flexibility. It's offline. I have it with me on my laptop, on the plane, going somewhere, in the lounge, at a hotel where I don't have good Wi-Fi. I've got a list of stuff that I expect to do, that I need to do, and that I have done. So it's all there. And we if we have more than one client, things start to get muddy, and you just need clarity. And so each of those checklists, spreadsheet checklists I've got, is in a client folder, in the root of the client folder, and usually has a very specific name of the client. And then every time I update it, I make sure that my folders are filtered, so it's at the top. So that's me. You might work better just in Asana, with the lovely task checklists. You might work better in a different project management tool. Whatever tool works for you is the best one for you. And sometimes we have to translate that to clients. I love Trello boards. I really do love Trello boards. It organizes my brain so well. But sometimes clients, like one client that I use Asana mainly with, they just don't think in Trello. They can only think in Asana. Same thing with Jira tickets. Love Jira tickets. Really clarifies what I want to get done with devs, but there's no way I can talk to the CEO in Jira ticket speak. So we use very specific, and it goes back to the communication. If we don't communicate with the people in the right way that they understand, as you said, Aleda, if they aren't given something in a particular format, it doesn't work for them. So tools are meant to aid us and should not be something we're forcing a client to use and that it takes them more time to use and they're frustrated with. Tools should be what they work with best, but also have your own tool and your own tool suite in your back pocket that you work best with. And while it may feel like duplicating effort, honestly, it's not, because if something gets skipped on the client side because it's some weird custom built system you're not used to, you've got a backup of everything on your machine. So yeah, tools are what works for you and works for the client.
Amazing. I love that clarification. Then a couple of more questions before wrapping up our today's session. The first one, because I believe that unfortunately this is something that we all face independently if we work in-house or client side. How should we deal with the out of the blue requests that affect the projected plan and deadline? And for this is simple. It's all about expectations and setting the right expectations and communicating it when this request comes your way. It's like, oh, there's a new launch, or there's a new let's say that something that wasn't expected, like a new player in the market, and I want you to do a benchmark for it to see if we have all of what they are launching. Or the latest core update has come your way and you have actually been impacted, unfortunately. So you can, that time that you thought that you could allocate to analyze a new project that you needed to give feedback for in the next couple of weeks, you cannot do it anymore. You need to allocate that time to do this other analysis that is more urgent, right? So what it is important here is that you communicate accordingly with the counterpart, with the decision maker that will end up receiving the report, and the other areas, in case that you are going to deliver something to the other areas and you will end up being a bottleneck, right? Hey, well, this is great. Thank you for this additional request for me to validate these new landing pages because of the new campaign that you're going to launch next week. However, I have already this time allocated for these priorities first. So let me know if you would like me to continue with the same planning, and I can validate this landing pages in 2 weeks rather than the next one. But if you do want it for the next week, then I will need to let my boss know, and that he's aware that my usual delivery or my usual outcome for next week is going to be delayed because of this other thing, right? So they don't blame you. You are not blamed. And potentially even goals will be affected. And the goals that we expected to achieve by next month, if I allocate this resources or this effort on doing that, well, they will not be achieved next month, but in 2 months. So it is important that you communicate that and they confirm you. It's like, okay, do you want this? Okay, perfect for me. But then this will mean that these goals will change, or this will be delayed, whatever. If you like this, perfect, just confirm me, please, and I will go ahead. But it's not up to you. It's up to them, right? They give you the go ahead. They give you the confirmation that this is what they want. What they need to understand is that they cannot have it all with the available resources, because there's only you and you already have a plan. So unless they find a way to clone you, which is unfortunately is not a thing yet, then they will need to decide. But it's not up to you to choose many times, right? It's up to them, because and they need to be aware that they have chosen. So if at some point the results are not achieved as expected, they know that they had the choice to do it, but they chose to not to, right? So it is what it is. And for the next time, if they really want to avoid this type of scenarios, they can give you more resources to have an extra person in your team, extra access to more resources, things like that, right? If they don't like this type of situations. And then to finalize our today's session, I want to ask you regarding the role of AI, right? I see a couple of questions regarding what type of activities or tasks here or areas you will tend to automate. And I have to say something, right? I really like automation to help us to really like save us time for tasks that can be easily planned. So for example, recurring crawls that you can configure to be done like every week, but you at the end of the day, you need to go and check them and validate and assess if the outcome in your particular context is the one that you expected or not. You can also save a little bit of time by configuring, like, for example, a Google Sheet with the desired status, and the comparison can be done automatically. So you know that if the recent crawl configurations are the ones that are expected or not, or there's something off, so you can quickly, easily spot the differences and the potential issues or not. But my point here, it requires human validation. It requires human analysis. You cannot expect to leave it all automated, because otherwise your SEO process won't be strategical. It won't be connected with the goals that you actually care about, with the understanding of the constraints of the resources of the process, or the needs or the expectations of your boss, right? So it is important that although there are things that we can now easily automate, or we want to automate to save us time, it is always important to go and check. So for example, with the real-time SEO alerting tools like Content King, for example, Little Warden, or SEO Radar, you can configure them. So whenever, an example, if you are working on a project on improving the configuration of canonical tags, or canonicalizations of category pages, and if at some point you are warned that, oh, canonical tags have been changed all of a sudden, and you didn't know about it, this is great. It saves you time and potentially a lot of money, because you are identifying on time that something was changed in an unexpected way, in a way that you didn't want it in the first place. But you need to go and check and verify if that's the case or not, because you cannot send automatically those messages to the developer or the development team saying, whenever you receive a message saying that something is canonicalized, is wrong, yes or not, because it depends on the context, right? So this is my point. Judith, anything that you would like to highlight regarding automation and potential use even of AI on this?
So one to take a step back for the previous question about what happens when requests come out of the blue. One of my favorite phrases is, which would you prefer? So if you say, yes, I can, and I always say yes, I can absolutely do that, because yes, I can do that. I am capable of doing that. But if you say, it will push your goals back by 2 months, yes, I can do that. Which would you prefer? Would you like me to do this? Or would you prefer that I focused on the main task? By doing that, as Aleda said, you put the onus on the client. But I do like to say yes, and which would you prefer? Because it takes it to them. So that's a really good use of language to force them. And it's very positive. It's something I learned when I was doing sales very long time ago. Which would you prefer? Because they're both, it's a positive outcome. But from an AI and automation point of view, Aleda's 100% right. This is about management of process, and we are the experts. And I love AI, I love automation, but one thing I learned from Content King is it's often wrong. And SEMrush is not a very good tool to automate to the point where that we're not needed anymore. It will flag things for us, and we should absolutely look at those alerts. But we are the experts, and we're the ones that can make the decisions as to what we can do or not do. And I think that automation is fantastic and it's essential. We should not be doing some tasks anymore manually, because it is a waste of time. But the higher level stuff, making decisions, double checking things. There was the example of the NBA player who was called useless. I mean, if somebody had just looked at the headline, it would never have gone live. So we need to make sure that we're not pushing things to live that would embarrass us. So I love automation. I love large language models. I love machine learning. I work with machine learning in viticulture. but we still have to check everything. So yes, use it, but make sure that you're using the most important tool in your toolbox, which is your brain.
100%, 100%. Well, thank you very much for all those insights and inputs. It has been super valuable, Judith. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully today's session has clarified quite a few doubts that you all had about this particular topic. And well, I think that this, let's say, set the base for a cost-effective coordination and good communication, successful way to handle SEO processes beyond the technicalities. Because at the end of the day, remember that is about achieving results and having a successful, let's say, experience and relationship on the clients. And there's also something important. It's not only that you believe that you have done a good job and you have achieved results, but also that your client or boss also knows this and believes this, right? So here is why all of this communication and coordination and setting expectations in the right way is so fundamental. Well, thank you very much for your time. And remember to like the video if you like it, to subscribe to the channel, because there are going to be many more sessions like this. And hopefully I will see you in the next session of learning SEO.io. Thank you very much. Until the next one. Bye-bye.